So the global banking cartel, who can create unlimited money out of thin air, is trying to position itself. The IMF announces every week now in the last year they are moving towards a global cashless currency. You'll still have dollars, you'll still have yen, yuan, you'll still have your currencies, but they'll be denominated and controlled by the private central bankers. And they're doing this to consolidate power, just like they've done in third world nations. They are ruthless. And in the IMF World Bank documents that got leaked when Joseph Stiglitz, Nobel Prize winner, quit the World Bank in 2002, they got leaked to the BBC. We broke them here with Greg Palast, BBC reporter first, made international headlines. The IMF and World Bank said once we get a country under our control and debt, then we make them put in economic policies that cause riots. We step back and let the people even put in their own government, but now they're destitute, and then they beg for us to come back in with even more control. And that's what's happening in the U.S. That's what's happening all over the world. They get you addicted to government welfare, then they pull the rug out from under you and threaten to fully implode your economy unless you raise taxes and cut benefits. But no matter how many taxes you raise and how many benefits you cut, it's mathematically set up where it's a financial black hole that's impossible to get out of. And then you read the British Ministry of Defense report, the Future Strategic Context for Defense. Then you read the Army Strategic Shock Report, 2008. Purposeful domestic resistance would require military to, quote, rapidly determine the parameters during the legitimate use of military force inside the United States, including pulling triggers, as Homeland Security Brigade Homeland told the Army Times 2 years ago. We are preparing to, quote, pull triggers in the United States. That was a quote by the general in the Army Times. We saved it. A week later, they actually pulled it out of the article, didn't correct it, didn't say it was wrong, pulled it out of the article. Well, I don't need to read it in an Army Times article. I've been to their takeover drills. I've had the footage sent to me of the takeover drills by listeners in Hebron, Maryland, in Swansboro, North Carolina, in Alabama. I've been there in California. I've been there in South Texas. I've interviewed police chiefs where the military told them that they're openly getting ready for martial law 14 years ago. I didn't know when this was coming. I just knew that they were quietly getting ready for this. And now they're going from denying it all to rolling it out in the open. That's what's such a concern. They create an economic atmosphere where people start rioting, where there's more crime, where they know when they cut the money off in a system they control, it's going to cause all sorts of societal problems, and they're there with the solution, more control. That's what I'm trying to get across here. And next hour, maybe even in the next segment, I'm going to open the phones up specifically on this issue to get your take on it. The toll-free number to join us is 877-789-ALEX, 877-789-2539, if you want to get involved up and on the air. And I got a lot of other important news that all ties in to this information. But I'm begging you, what a crazy headline. I'm begging you to look at these articles. Instead of knowing all about football or baseball, learn about this. London Guardian, crazy headline, Monday, April 9th. 2007. Revolution, flash mobs, and brain chips, a grim vision of the future. And the British Ministry of Defense, in a report that took them 3 years to write, predicts the future. They say this is what we believe is going to happen. And they say the public, by 2025, will accept brain chips in the name of security. I'm not the one saying that. Sounds crazy. They said it. They said by 2012, 2013, there'll be global riots and global insurrection because of commodity prices going up via global currency devaluation and increased taxes. This is what the war planners are getting ready for. They also go on to talk about governments using neutron bombs. This is also in the September 20th, 2000, Rebuilding America's Defenses PNAC, written by Dick Cheney and 24 other neocons. And they say, we must legitimize the use of race-specific bioweapons. Even the Austin American Statesman, the paper where I live in Austin, wrote an article in 2003 rebuking that report. This is on record. The report states that you can read that they are preparing to use race-specific bioweapons to wipe out certain races of people as a way to politically control things. I mean, you cannot, folks, I'm not the one talking about race-specific bioweapons. I'm not the one in these reports 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years ago talking about tethering or launching giant unmanned blimps at 100,000 feet, surveilling and face scanning you on the ground. Though they've now rolled those out nationwide. Now you see it in the news. I mean, we're living in Buck Rogers land. We're living in 2011. This stuff is real. They have unlimited taxpayer money to do all of this, to ensure that their global takeover is successful. And it makes my head spin. I remember 3 years ago, it was even in the Washington Post, that protesters in D.C. had robotic hummingbirds and robotic drone dragonflies flying above them as the Pentagon tested surveillance, artificial insects and birds. And mainstream news has made fun of me for even reporting on that. Here's the L.A. Times 2 days ago. It's a bird, it's a spy, it's both. Backed by the Pentagon, research arm firm has developed the nano hummingbird, an experimental miniature drone, and then it shows the video of it, video and audioing people who don't even know it. Again, I'm not the one doing this. I'm reporting on it. It's incredible. Continuing here. Again, here's our headline. 3 years ago, 2008. Army Strategic Shock Report, talking about economic implosion, preparing military to take over every major city. They're already setting up the beta test with the threat fusion centers. I'm not against our military. I'm against who's running it. And it doesn't matter who's in office. Every president's come and go. This agenda is seamless. It's controlling both parties. U.S. troops and Homeland crowd control patrols. September 24, 2008, preparing for martial law and economic collapse. And we laid out what would happen. It goes on and on and on. So here in a nutshell is what's happening. The bankers give all this free money to third world countries, knowing they can never pay it back. It's made up fiat money. I've seen cases of a $1 billion loan to Nigeria 30-something years ago. They've already paid over $50 billion on the $1 billion loan at 30% interest, and they still owe another $50 billion. That's the position the American people are being put into. That's the position that we're being directed into, economic servitude, and it's not even money we owe, and this red herring is launched that the unions caused it. You think I like the gun-grabbing, anti-free speech unions? No. The point is, they're a red herring saying our economy is shot because of them. It's the 1.5 quadrillion, 1,500 trillion, that's admittedly out there that we don't owe, that the Madoff-type, Ken Lay-type bankers, Ken Lay created the carbon tax plan, 95 with Al Gore. It's these people, it's these crooks getting away with this and thinking that we're not sophisticated enough to understand what's happening. And so it's not that the protesters aren't legitimate and aren't real, and I support these dictators being removed. The question is, why is the Pentagon, why is the State Department on record orchestrating this? They already know the political ingredients are there. The atmosphere politically is there for rebellion. The globalists have been training the Egyptian military out of torture. That's Associated Press, Reuters, you name it. They've been funding them billions of dollars to do it. Now suddenly, oh, it's democracy, but then we hear it's not going to be a free country. It's not going to be an elected government. What are they planning to put in? Then we hear it's the Muslim Brotherhood, where Osama bin Laden came from. They're putting radical Muslims in and creating a crisis so then they can offer the solution to it, a domestic police state here at home in the name of fighting Muslim extremists, when we get the internal MIAC and Homeland Security reports and the government admits the entire system is designed for the American people. Don't you see what's happening here? When we come back, I'm going to get into the latest developments in the Middle East, North Africa, and here in the United States. From Seattle, Washington, to Milwaukee, Wisconsin. From Beijing, China, the rebellion is on. Order out of chaos. They create the crisis, offer the solution.
Alex told you the government announced recently that the recession is over. It ended on June of 2009. The millions of Americans unable to find work might not agree. Perhaps the recession ended for the bankers and government